Guys, I've got some interesting news. Janibek isn't really giving up on chasing Andrade, is he? He's going on social media and saying, where is Demetrius Andrade? Where is Demetrius Andrade? Where have you gone? It's funny for me because Andrade's been chasing Canelo for a very long time, and now there's another guy who seems like he's chasing him, and he's also saying that it's not a case where if you go to 168, I'm going to chase you at 168. So Andrade might have to see this dude somewhere along the line, because I think Janibek is quite keen on fighting Demetrius Andrade, which is good. I think it's a good fight. I think it would be a good fight to watch, to be honest with you as well. I think Janibek is a guy is a very, very talented fighter, a guy coming through. A lot of people seem to think that Andrade would win that fight, and I think, yeah, I would favour Andrade at this point. I think Janibek's still a bit green, and Andrade's got a lot of experience, but you know, it's crazy that the fact that now Andrade's going to move up to 168 to fight Zach Parker. Janibek probably becomes the 160-pound middleweight champion. What's going to happen with Charlo? If Charlo gets a Canelo fight, is he going to move up to 168 and vacate? Is he going to then stay at 168, or is that just a one-off to fight Canelo? What's going to happen there? You know, there's a lot of interesting things going on in the middleweight and the super middleweight division, because for me, there's a lot of things that potentially could happen. There's a lot of good matchups to be made. I think at 168, there's a lot of names there. Caleb Plant, there's David Benavidez, Morel, and there's some good names there. So, you know, maybe Andrade is looking to get those fights. Hopefully we can get to see those fights. I mentioned this yesterday. But it'll be interesting to see what, you know, if Janibek does carry on chasing Andrade. Because obviously, you know, when you're a guy that has never been a world champion, you want to be a world champion. So, you know, you want to beat the world champion. You want to beat the champion so you can say you beat the world champion. Nobody really loves to win vacant belts. You know, winning vacant belts isn't, I just don't like it, to be honest with you. I know you have to fight somebody for that vacant belt, but I think it's always better if you beat the champion or the guy that was holding that belt. So I'm pretty sure Janibek wants to fight Andrade because he wants to beat the champion. And most fighters do. Like, remember Errol Spence when he came to the UK and beat Kell Brook? Errol Spence also said that, like, I don't want to fight for a vacant belt. I want to beat the champion, so it looks much better on my resume that I actually beat the champion. Which obviously is what Janibek wants to do. But Andrade is gone missing, so Janibek is calling him out, saying, where have you gone, Andrade? Where are you? Demetrius Andrade says Janibek. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. This boxing world is crazy. You know, everyone's looking out for their own best interests. Andrade is going to say, you've only had like 13 fights. You know, you're no good to me. I'm looking for the bigger fights. His next fight is going to be against Zach Parker. Then, like I said, I think you give him that Zach Parker fight because it's for the to become the mandatory challenger of the WBO belt. And if Canelo was to vacate, would that mean that Andrade becomes the WBO? Because I'm pretty sure if Canelo had vacated that fight, the Zach Parker and Andrade fight would have been for a world title, right? It would have been for a world title. So it will be good to see if Andrade does become WBO world champion. Will he then start unifying and fight other champions? If Canelo does vacate all those belts, will Demetrius Andrade then start fighting all the other big names in the 168-pound division? Because you'd have to say then there's no excuse, right? Because all of those guys are in the same boat. All of those guys want to have big fights as well, and all of those guys want to be involved in fights. And Andrade would be a perfect fight for those guys. It would be good to see how Andrade gets on with someone like David Benavidez. I really want to see the Jamal Charlo fight, but I don't think that fight's going to happen. There's some really big fights to make. There's some really, really big fights to make with Andrade. But yeah, I think this Janibek fight would be a good fight as well. I think Janibek's a very dangerous fight. A lot of people are now saying that he's ducking Janibek. And I think Andrade's brought that onto himself because of what he's been saying about Canelo. Saying that he was ducking him. And Canelo was actually fighting undefeated world champions, whereas now Andrade is fighting Zach Parker. And you can't really defend that because a lot of people think Janibek is a lot more dangerous than Zach Parker. So Andrade just kind of like backed himself into a corner because he's going up to 168 and not fighting Janibek. His fans are saying, well, it doesn't make business sense. It doesn't make business sense. You know, Janibek's hardly had any fights. He's just another Mando. Andrade is very talented and he needs big fights. But his next fight is going to be against Zach Parker. So why couldn't he defended his mandatory against Janibek, then move up and fight, you know? But by then, who knows, Canelo might have vacated the belts and his fight against Zach Parker might have been for the actual WBO title. So this is what I'm trying to point out is that you know, you're not fighting Janibek, but then you're moving up and fighting Zach Parker, you know, by saying that Janibek isn't a big fight, but then you're willing to fight Zach Parker. You know, so it doesn't make sense, really. It doesn't make sense at all. And if Andrade, if him going up to 168 was because of the fact that, you know, he can't get the big fights, why didn't he do it earlier? Because this has been rumored around for a very long time. This is like, you know, Andrade knew that he wasn't going to get the fight against Golovkin-Charlo quite a while back. So, and he knew Canelo was at 168. So why didn't he make that move a lot quicker? But as soon as Janibek becomes the mandatory, all of a sudden now he's moving up. So it kind of doesn't look good from his, you know, when you look at it from that perspective, because it looks like the reason why he's moving up is because he doesn't want to take a high risk, low reward fight against Janibek. But he's now moving up to 168 because that would be another easy way for him to win a world title if Canelo was to vacate. People said, my friend James Deere said, well, how can Canelo be ducking Janibek to look for another bigger fight? Well, that's not how it works, you know, because here's Timothy Bradley ducked Amir Khan for the undisputed fight in the light welterweight division and went up and fought Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, Manny Pacquiao was a harder fight, but it's still a duck, though, for me. Because at the end of the day, why wouldn't you stay and look to become undisputed at 140 for your legacy? Because if you beat Khan, you can go and fight Pacquiao anyway. You'll be an undisputed champion. So why not fight Khan first and then fight if you're confident? Because the reason why is because you know that's a dangerous fight and you may lose. And then the Pacquiao fight's off the table. So that, for me, is ducking. That, for me, you're avoiding because you're afraid that you may lose. And the same way when Khan, for example, was chasing Mayweather and Pacquiao, he didn't fight Kell Brook because of the fact that he knew that Kell Brook's a dangerous fight. If he loses, those fights aren't going to happen. So that's avoiding, ducking, however you want to put it. And this is what I'm trying to say, that Andrade is not fighting Janibek because he knows it's a dangerous fight, but it's a low reward fight. And that's why he's moving up to 168. So that, for me, is avoiding. But for me, if I was his manager, I think it's the right move. It's the right move because you'd be advising him not to fight Janibek. Because if you fight and lose, you've lost everything. You're already struggling to get big fights. You're already struggling to be a draw. If you lose to this guy, you're done. So again, it's probably the right move from a career point of view, 100%. You know, but I just think the excuses run out at 168 if he doesn't get the big fights. Because then that'll be 3 weight classes now where he's struggled to get any big fights. What's he going to do then? Move up to 175? You know, so I think it'll come to a point where Andrade now needs to get the big fights. Otherwise, the fans are just going to ultimately turn their back because they're going to be like, what is going off here? What is going off here? You know, so I hope Demetrius Andrade gets the fight with Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, or even Canelo. You know, but, you know, I think the excuses will no longer be there for Demetrius Andrade at 168 because there's a lot of guys in the same kind of position as him. So he needs to really secure one of those big fights. Otherwise, you know, I think fans are gonna turn on him, to be honest with you. But that's my take on that situation. I want to talk a bit about Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte. Guys, Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte's made. How do we see this fight going? I think it's a great fight. I think Dillian Whyte's being slept on here. I do think Dillian Whyte's being slept on. I actually think it's a lot more interesting than what people think. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a fight which will definitely moved the needle. I won't be surprised if the pay-per-view numbers for this fight are huge here in the UK. I don't think it's that big a fight over there in America, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a fight which the Americans will be looking forward to, but nevertheless, I think it's a good fight here in the UK. I think it's one of the biggest fights here in the UK. And what I will say is this. I think Dillian Whyte's a live underdog. I do. I don't think this is an easy fight for Tyson Fury, but I do expect Tyson Fury to come through it and probably stop Dillian late. I think Tyson Fury now has become a very versatile fighter. He can fight on the front foot and the back foot. We saw him fight on the back foot against Vladimir Klitschko, where he outboxed Vladimir Klitschko, and we saw him come on the front foot against Deontay Wilder. I think Tyson Fury will approach this fight in two halves. Early on in the fight, I think Tyson Fury will look to box and probably make Dillian Whyte look a bit silly, take a bit of sting out of him. And then I think as Dillian Whyte tires, I think Tyson Fury will step on the gas, come forward and start putting more pressure on Dillian Whyte. Looking to tire him, looking to weaken him, maybe use his size as well. Thing is with Dillian Whyte's not going to be bullied by Tyson Fury. Dillian Whyte will be being rough and dirty, throwing shots at his body. They call him the body snatcher after all. And what Tyson Fury has to be wary of is that left hook. Now, I do think Tyson Fury is a very skilled fighter. At times, he can get sloppy. And when you're in the heavyweight division, getting sloppy is very dangerous. So Tyson Fury's got to make sure that he's switched on his game, which I believe he will be. And I see a late stoppage in this fight for Tyson Fury. But again, I'll say it again, I think Dillian Whyte's a live underdog. I want to talk a little bit about the purse bid. You know, Eddie Hearn got blown out, well, not blown out the water, but Frank Warren, you know, won the purse bid. You know, the highest purse bid in boxing history, with Frank Warren bidding $41 million. Eddie Hearn bidding, I think, $32 million, which is a record. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I don't know whether they're going to be able to make the money back. Are they going to make it money back? Is this fight going to be that big for them to, you know, make that money back? Possibly. I think it is a massive fight. Probably, will it do over 1 million pay-per-view buys? It should do. Tyson, let's see how big a draw Tyson Fury is now, because it's not like he's fighting a no-name. He's fighting a Dillian Whyte who's been on pay-per-view, who does good numbers himself. So I think this will be a benchmark to see how big a draw Tyson Fury is. And let's see what kind of numbers Tyson Fury can generate for this particular fight. Because I really am looking forward to Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte. I think Dillian Whyte finally gets his opportunity for a world title shot, which I think he's been deserving for a very long time. And now he's got his opportunity. What I was didn't understand, did Dillian Whyte accept the purse bid split then? Because wasn't it 80-20? So did he just accept it, that he's willing to take 80-20? I don't know how that played out, because I thought Dillian Whyte wasn't happy with the purse split. I thought he wanted a higher purse split. So has he accepted 80-20? Is he just going ahead with it? If that is the case, that's even great news. So Dillian Whyte saying, you know what, I've had enough. I just want to get this fight on. I believe in my skills. I believe in my talent. I'm going to beat Tyson Fury and then become the emperor. You know, and I think that's how Dillian Whyte is thinking right now, you know. So I respect to Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte's a warrior. I think Tyson Fury's a warrior. I think you're going to get a great fight. I think Dillian Whyte's going to look to press him. Look to come forward, look to be rough, dirty. I do worry a little bit about Dillian Whyte's punch resistance. You know, I do feel like early on when he fought Joshua, his punch resistance was quite strong. He was taking a lot of shots in that fight. Unfortunately, you know, has his punch resistance got worse? I don't know. You know, some people seem to think Dillian Whyte's punch resistance is getting worse. I just think it's heavyweight boxing. I just think if you get caught with a big punch, you could get put away. It's heavyweight boxing, man. You know, Tyson Fury's a guy who recovers very well. It's not like he can't be knocked down, because Tyson Fury's been down quite a few times in his career, but he recovers very well, and then he comes back at you, you know, and that's Fury. Fury's got a massive heart. He's got great recovery powers. So it's going to be hard to beat this guy. It's going to be very, very hard to beat this guy, because he's very intelligent. He's very big, right? He's very fast, right? He's got a heart of a lion. He's got great recovery power when he gets hurt. You know, it's hard to see Tyson Fury getting beat by anybody right now. But it's heavyweight boxing. The only guy that I see that could beat Tyson Fury is Alexander Usyk, who is a phenomenon. You know, he's just a great boxer. And I think he could potentially be not banana skin. I think he could genuinely beat Tyson Fury. I think he's got the skills to pay the bills. I generally do. I'm a massive fan of Alexander Usyk. Some people call me a fanboy. Some people say this, that, and the other. But I really, really rate Alexander Usyk. And I think he's going to be the guy that potentially could give Fury his first defeat. But, you know, some people don't agree with me. But we'll have to wait and see. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And, guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.